Ahoy there, Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another Acting on Instinct, the series that looks at Command & Conquer Rivals the same way a doctor looks at a blood sample, closely, under a microscope, and with the aim to understand just what exactly is going on. Before we get started, this video comes with a couple of important announcements that I hope you don't mind me taking a couple of moments to quickly share with you. Firstly, this channel recently hit 1,000 subscribers. Thank you all so much for this. I know that's small fry numbers compared to some channels, but the concept that 1,000 people watched my videos and said to themselves, you know, I want to see more of this, it's truly humbling. So thank you all so much for your support, and I really look forward to moving onwards. Secondly, I'm very excited to announce that I'm now working in conjunction with Fiery Tail. These guys are serious about their esports with teams in CSGO, Overwatch, Vainglory and Armajet, and I'm pleased to be working alongside them as a content creator for CNC Rivals. It's great to have that extra assistance to boosting my channel and giving me the chance to support the competitive scene for Rivals in my own little way. I can't wait to see the competitors they put forward when the tournament scene here starts kicking off, and I'm sure I'll have more updates on that in the future. Anyway, thanks for staying with me and letting me share this exciting news with you. So now let's get started on this video. As you all know by now, I like to lurk in the Rivals Discords and subreddit, and I've noticed a trend of questions that just keep getting asked. So rather than keep answering these individually and wearing my thumbs down to bloody stumps, here's 10 things you didn't know about Command & Conquer Rivals. Probably. Number 1. Challenge matches. You've probably encountered challenge matches during your climb. These matches award double medals if you win, and losing doesn't punish you. That's right, if you lose a challenge match, no medals are lost, and losing a challenge match won't even interrupt a win streak. But how do you get a challenge match? Well, currently there are 2 ways. The first method of getting a challenge match is if your opponent has 200 or more medals than you. This will mean that they're a full league ahead, and should have all the tactics and skill to show for that discrepancy. You can still do it. Heck, even if you screw up, you're not gonna lose anything. Now the second method is a little more complex and in itself has 2 conditions. Firstly, your opponent's army must be an average of 1.4 levels above yours. And secondly, your own army must be high enough to be eligible. Now the eligibility level is always 3 levels below your league cap. So if you're in Diamond League, for example, which has a league cap of 11, then your army must have an average level of 8 to be eligible for level-based challenge matches. If you're below this threshold, you'll still get a challenge match if your opponent has 200 medals on you, but you won't get one if your opponent's army is higher level. So why is this? As it may seem counterintuitive at first. Ultimately, it's to stop players advancing to a point where they're only able to get challenge matches. This would mean you could only ever win double medals and you would never lose any, which clearly would cause issues. This, combined with the league caps, is designed to help you stay where your levels are appropriate and that the games are as close to fair as they can be. If you find yourself in a league that your levels aren't quite high enough for, this stops you progressing too much further and making the situation much worse whilst you level up your units. Number 2. The third missile is faster. If you and your opponent go 1 for 1 on the first 2 nukes, you may be surprised to find out that the third nuke charges significantly quicker. This keeps games fast and frantic and can make for some exciting last-minute switches. Be very careful, watch those pads and the charge timer and be prepared to seize control at the last moment. On the subject of nukes though, it's also worth noting that holding more pads or putting more units on a pad does not help the nuke charge faster. It is always a set speed. Number 3. Population cap. Now, I did an entire video on this subject, but if you're wondering why sometimes it takes ages to be able to build a new unit, and why sometimes that slow cooldown seems to suddenly speed up, this is a system called population cap. The more units you have on the battlefield, in essence, including your harvesters, the slower these cooldowns go. You can see this in the bottom left of the screen. Do be sure, of course, to check out my video on population cap to get a full understanding on how this mechanic works. Like, seriously, go check it out. Number 4. How to use your gems. If you're lucky enough to get some gems, or wanted to show the developers your support and chose to buy some, you're probably wondering the best way to spend them. Now, there are various crates available for purchase, and these can be really useful if you need a sudden influx of cards to help you along. And you can always purchase credits with your diamonds if you're really short and need to quickly level up some units that you have the cards for. All that aside though, the best way to spend your gems is by rushing convoy crates. These convoy crates are on a 150 crate cycle. It's not a chance system. And in every situation, rushing through this cycle faster is a much more efficient use of your gems. You'll get more credits doing this than you would purchasing credits, and you get more cards than you would by buying crates. The downside, if you consider it one, is that you do have to play matches to earn the fuel used to order and speed up a convoy first. Don't be ashamed of rushing a common crate either, as this moves you closer to the next rare or epic chest on that list. Number 5. Effective icons. Did you know that if you tap on a unit, all enemy units get a little icon on them? These icons show how effective your unit is against theirs. Green for good, red for bad. It also puts a cross through units that your selected unit physically cannot target. So whilst you're still learning your counters, this can be a super useful tool. And on the subject of learning counters, you should be keeping up to date with my Intel Report playlist to learn everything you can about every unit in the game. But seriously, practice makes perfect. While you're climbing though, this little tool can really help you out in a pinch. Number 6. Revealing your deck. On a similar note to number 5, if you hold your finger down on a building that you haven't built yet, it will reveal which units you have in your deck in that building. Very useful if, like me, you often happen to forget what units are in the War Factory or Tech Lab in this particular deck. You can also hold down on individual unit cards too, and it will give you a brief rundown of the unit, its strengths, its weaknesses, that kind of thing. Number 7. Air units fly. Yeah, I know, it seems ludicrously obvious. Air units fly, of course. They're air units, which means they can move over enemy ground units and obstacles. However, what you may not have realised is what this can mean for you. In short, this means you can fly over ground units to contest pads, even if there are no tiles for your air unit to stop on. As long as your unit is moving over the pad, that pad's contested. This can be very useful if you and your opponent are both in a stalemate with neither being able to take the enemy pad. Fly over theirs, and it's now contested. This does, however, work both ways. If you're holding a pad with air units, then ground units can just run under them for the same effect. Number 8. Units can block multiple tiles. You know what it's like. The missile's about to launch in your favour and your opponent's running a counter at one of your pads. Before the nuke can launch, they can test the pad, melt your unit, steal the pad, and with it, the launch. Now you can stop this happening. If you move a unit backward and forth across 2 tiles, you may find that your opponent's unit is unable to pass onto the pad, allowing you to hold it those few extra seconds and launch the nuke at them. Number 9. Swarming your units. Now whilst tip number 8 is based on not being able to pass through hostile units, this tip is based on being able to move through your own. Whilst this is useful for protecting your harvesters from rushes, as shown in my video, this is also vital for the swarming strategy. So what is swarming, I hear you cry? Well, swarming is the act of moving 2 or more units with Raider through each other together. This means that their target gets hit with twice the firepower, but is only able to hit 1 target in return. Pitbulls, Scorpions and Predators are probably the best units for this, but in fairness, any unit with Raider can do it. You would be surprised at the amount of damage that units swarming together can do, and how hard this tactic can be to deal with. Number 10. Player levels do not matter. Yeah, I know, this is the controversial point, but hear me out. Now, as you climb through the leagues, you may encounter players with a significantly higher player level than you. I don't mean unit levels here, I mean the levels that you as a player gain through experience that ultimately allow you to unlock new units. Now, on that subject, it's worth noting that at time of recording, unlocking a new unit does not mean you have access to it yet, just that the cards appear in crates now, so don't be surprised when you hit a particular level and don't have immediate access to the unit you've unlocked. But going back, some people do get frustrated by facing someone with higher levels than them, but this really doesn't matter. All this ultimately means is that you have reached the same skill level as that higher level player in a considerably shorter time. You should feel good about that. On top of this also, there is no unit that you unlock after level 15 that cannot be counted with units that you have by level 15. Sure, it's nice to have some of the more unusual and exciting toys unlocked. I remember the wonderful feeling of unlocking my very first mammoth tank. But this all comes with time. Just know that whilst it can be terrifying facing your first Inferno, mere Talons or Banshees can rip it out of the sky ridiculously quickly. So there we have it. 10 things you may not have known about Command & Conquer Rivals. I do hope you learned something new, and if you did, drop a like on the video and let me know what it was that you learned in the comments. If you think I missed something, drop that in the comments too. I'm open to doing a second 10 more things that you didn't know video, and I'm always open to new video suggestions. Ultimately, this just gives me more ideas for when my well of creativity runs as dry as a martini. In the Kalahari. In summer. If you want to stay up to date and ahead of your game in Command & Conquer Rivals, do also click that subscribe button and slap the bell for more notifications when a new video goes live. If you're really struggling in the game, do check out my other videos in my Acting on Instinct and my Intel Report playlists, or head to the Rivals Community Discord or Reddit, I've popped links on screen now, where I do usually like to lurk hiding in the shadows like a little helpful ninja. As always, happy sailing, and I'll see you on the battlefield.